So if you're a gear hound like me, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, you go to your phone and you start checking for the deals on whatever it is that you're on the hunt for, whether that be an amp, guitar pedal, guitar, whatever it may be. Now, I've always been told that I find some of the most outstanding deals on gear that anybody's ever heard of. Most recently, I got a 1964 Deluxe Reverb for $1,800. And if you know anything about a 1964 Deluxe Reverb, it's the very first year that they ever made, incredibly rare and unusual. And I got this thing for a total steal. Often these are going almost $4,000 on eBay or Reverb. I have a lot of tips on how to find great gear and great deals on it. And I'm going to share with you those tips today on how exactly I do it and how you might utilize this in order to get a bargain on the next boutique, rare, or vintage piece that you might be looking for. Let's do it. For most of us, when we're looking for a used device or we're looking for something vintage or rare or super boutique, generally we're restricted to just a couple of outlets. Maybe if you're on one of the online forums, you might be able to strike a bargain with somebody on the gear page, or maybe you're using something like Facebook Marketplace, but most of us are using still either eBay or Reverb to find most of our gear. But there's obviously a drawback because there's a limited amount of negotiation that can happen. There's always fees for sellers. You have to pay tax on that. There's a lot of disincentives to using these platforms, but you do have the added benefit of security. Now, if you're willing to take a little bit more of a risk and deal with somebody either in person or deal with somebody remotely, you'll never find a better deal than what you can find on Craigslist. And there's a lot of different search engines now that allow you to actually search Craigslist globally or nationally to help you find the best deal on any particular thing that you're looking for so that you can get a killer deal on whatever that item might be and be able to, in most cases, get it shipped right to you and not even have to meet the seller in person. So the first app that I'll use that works really great for my phone is called CP Plus, which is a global Craigslist search. You can search any word or criteria. You can search regionally or select the number of regions that you want, including all the different cities in your state or all the different cities in the country to search a Craigslist ad. You can also expand this into a global search if you're willing to go even further to find whatever the item is that you're looking for. Equally on this search, you're able to do save searches so that you can get notifications whenever the item comes up that you're looking for, whether that's in Columbus, Ohio or Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. You're going to be notified when that piece of gear becomes available or is listed on any of those sites. The other app, or I guess it's more of a website in this case that I use, especially when I'm on my desktop or I have my laptop out, is going to all of Craigslist. This is another way that you can search all the Craigslist listings that are out there. I wouldn't say that it's quite as vetted as the CP Plus. A lot of times you'll see expired ads show up in here, but it's still a great way to find all these different ads on Craigslist if you are using your desktop and you don't have this mobile application in order to search for the gear that you're looking for. So I want to take you through kind of an exploration, searching for specific items that I'm kind of looking for right now, and maybe you're also looking for, and show you this exact process in technique in action. We're going to search for a specific genre of guitar. We're going to search for a specific genre of amp and genre of boutique and rare pedal, and we're going to see what we can come up with, what kind of deals are out there, and I'm going to list some of the best deals that we find as we're searching today in the description below, so you can actually check out some of these devices yourself, some of these amps yourself, some of these guitars yourself if you're interested, or just take these same exact techniques and apply it to whatever the gear is that you're looking for, and hopefully you too will find a great deal using these exact search parameters and these applications to find what you're looking for. So let's head into my office. Let's look at a couple of the different pieces of gear that I've gotten from Craigslist on great deals, and then let's try to search for something in that category, whether that's amps, pedals, or guitars, based along the lines of something that I might be looking for at this very moment, and you can come through the process with me. Let's do it. So let's first take a deep dive into amps and search some criterias to find some great stuff. But before we do that, I want to tell you about one of the great finds that I've gotten recently on Craigslist. This is a 1964, very first year Fender Deluxe Reverb. Now these are going upwards of $3,000 and $4,000 now on most used sites, whether that's Reverb or eBay or from a lot of the retailers that are selling and dealing vintage gear. This was an absolute steal, and I actually found this locally up in Davis, which is near Sacramento, California, and at $1,800 it was an absolute great deal. Now this isn't all that uncommon, and to put this into perspective, you can buy a new hand-wired version of this amp and it's more money than what I paid for it. I think the new hand-wired Fender is somewhere around $2,500, so this is even coming in under that and is vintage and original. Now it is a player grade, it's got some dents, it's got some dings, missing some Tolex, and I did change the speaker, although I still have the original. I put a Classic Lead 80 in there based on Tom Bukovac's advice, and it absolutely sounds killer. But again, this is not that uncommon. We can often find these same deals around. So let's take a deep dive and let's see what we can find in terms of mid-60s Fenders and see if we can't score another good deal. All right, so I got all of Craig's open, and I'm gonna start first with just doing amplifiers and using some key search terms that I like. Now, of course, if you're looking for a specific amplifier, you can put in whatever that is. But I like to find stuff that maybe is a good deal or that is vintage, and so I have kind of certain words that I look for that kind of encapsulate or cast a pretty wide net. So one of them that I use often is the word hand-wired or boutique. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in hand-wired here, and I can sometimes try it all as one word or as two separate words, just to see if maybe some person spelled it slightly differently than I might. Let's try hand-wired as two words. I'm not really seeing it. I'm not really seeing the deals yet. All right, let's see what we got. I've separated it now into two words, hand and wired. Okay, here's a pretty good deal. So here's a Buddha Super Drive 30. Now this is $850, and the thing that's great about the Buddha is, well, first of all, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dave Friedman was involved at least in some of the voicing, if not some of the design decisions around the Buddha amplifiers, especially from this generation. I think that this is a pre-PV version, and these are really, really cool amplifiers. They have effects loops. Man, they sound really good. I haven't played one in a long time, but I'm fairly certain that Dave Friedman was involved with these in some way. He was also involved with the Nailers, which are really cool amps. That's one. It's definitely a good deal. I mean, $850 for a hand-wired amp. That guy might even take less than that. Let's see what else we got. All right, here's a great deal. Here's a Fender concert amp. Now, this is the Rivera era concert, which is definitely one of my favorite channel switching Fenders of all time. It kind of has a little bit of a Dumble-y style distortion or overdrive circuit. The clean tone is classic Fender. This is a head for $600. It's got a 2 buffered effects loop, spring reverb. This one's definitely a winner for $600. Pretty unbeatable there. Let's type in vintage and Fender and see what we find. Now this isn't technically an amp, but reverb tank that's hand wired for $750. That's a pretty killer deal. I actually have one of these reverb tanks. Now it's not the same as what you would find back in the 60s in terms of those classic 63 reverb tanks, but it's still really, really great. They sound great. Of course, if you want the spring reverb from a Fender, you can't go without that. This is a pretty great deal, actually. So here's a 1970 Fender Pro Reverb. Now this is basically, I think of it as like a half-size twin, so roughly around 45 watts. It's $1,000. These are still all hand-wired, really, really great amps. Tomo Fujita, if you know who he is, he's a huge fan of the Pro Reverb. You could easily convert this to the mid-60s circuit very easily for not a lot of money. But these sound really good. You put some decent speakers in these. These take Celestion's great. I really love G1265s. In a Pro Reverb for $1,000, you could probably do the changeover for a few hundred. You're looking at something that's pretty much a right-on mid-60s Fender Pro Reverb for only a couple $100 more. That's a great deal. This ain't bad either. So I see right here a 1967 Showman, dual Showman. So this is a 4-ohm head. for 650 bucks. Now, if you basically want all the clean tones of a twin reverb without the reverb, this is an incredible amp. Really, really clean, really great for if you maybe had a distorted amp that you were going to A/B with this and use this as your clean tone. Great for that. They can be sometimes a little stiff for pedals, but still for 650 bucks. Now, it looks like this person also had modded it for like an 8-ohm tap as well, but it looks like it's actually got vintage tubes in it, Sylvanias. It looks pretty clean, I have to say. That's a cool amp. All right, here's another good one. Now, it's a 69. Now, it looks like it may be later than the 69 because it doesn't have the drip edge, but sometimes you can find people who just remove the drip edge because it's a little bit fragile. This is $12.50 for what they're saying is a 69 super reverb. If this is in fact a 69, it's a great deal. It looks like it's got maybe it's got some sort of it's got Nico speakers in it. It looks pretty good. Yeah, so if this is really a 69, that's a great deal. $12.50. Maybe it's not because again it's missing the drip edge, but sometimes those just came off. Here's $14.95 for a Showman head from 64. This is maybe a little high, but these are certainly more valuable than what the later 60s ones were. This is probably a little bit high. It looks like it's a little bit beat up. All right, here's a great deal. So Tone King Imperial. It's basically like a super well-built Fender amplifier, kind of a deluxe-ish. And man, for 1,500 bucks, this is totally hand-wired. This is before the Premier Builders Guild. This was a Baltimore, Maryland made by Mark Bartell, I think was the name of the guy that made him. My buddy Mason Stoops loves these. These are really, really great amplifiers. For 1,500 bucks, getting something hand-wired, definitely a winner there. That's a great deal. I love those amps. Great Fender-y amps. Let's do one more. I always search this because I love Paul Rivera's amps, especially the Fender era stuff. I'm just going to type in Rivera and see if we see anything cool. All right, I see another Rivera era concert for $650. This one's a combo. A lot of times these came with EVs in them, which is great. And even if you don't like EVs, you could just sell the EV because they're expensive speakers now. So those were some great deals on amps. Fantastic selection here. Again, I think Craigslist is definitely the way to go if you want to be ensured that you have a great deal. If you can go out and play it, and again, even some of this stuff I just have shipped to me, and it's still, especially for something smaller like a pedal, not a lot of risk there. I think people generally are pretty honest on Craigslist. I've done a lot of business on Craigslist for personal gear. I've never had a problem. Let's now talk about pedals and finding great deals on vintage and rare pieces. Now, one of my recent finds that I'm very proud of is finding a TS10 Japanese-made era for 180 bucks on Craigslist. Now, if you know anything about the TS10, it's largely considered probably one of the worst made versions of the Tube Screamer. Maybe only worse is the TS7, which is totally plastic. But the TS10 has become a cult pedal because of none other than John Mayer and his use of the TS10 as his preferred Tube Screamer. Now, these are getting upwards of $400 and $500. I've even seen them go well above that because of John Mayer using them. However, finding these for under $200, maybe at most $250, is quite an easy find if you know where to look for them. So we're going to go take a deep dive now, try to find some great deals on some vintage style Tube Screamers, maybe TS9s, maybe TS10s. Let's see what's out there. I might need to snag myself one more just so I have a backup. All right, for pedals now, let's type in vintage pedals. Let's see what we got. Just going real general here. Just starting out general and then maybe getting more specific. Here's a nice vintage one, 64 MXR. Now, this is a little bit high, I think, especially since with the MXR stuff, if you want to get the original early 70s circuit, you can buy the later 70s circuit where it's block logo on the front. And as long as it still has that script in the corner, you're still good, and it's the same circuit as some of the original stuff. So that one I wouldn't sweat too much. This is pretty cool. Here's a vintage Distortion Plus for 200 bucks. Still got the box. Josh Scott would be stoked on this. That looks great. That's a good deal. Vintage Dallas Arbiter England trem face, the tremolo equivalent to the fuzz face. That looks pretty good. Now here's a TS10 with the box, $750. That's definitely high. I mean, those are going up. Let's type in the word boutique. Boutique's another one. This can also yield amplifiers sometimes, can yield guitars sometimes. This is a really cool one. This Hartman LM308 op-amp distortion. This is basically Theo Hartman's version of a Rat. And Theo doesn't make pedals anymore, but he made some really, really amazing vintage style pedals. If you want a great Proco Rat that has the option to go symmetrical versus asymmetrical, it is a pretty fantastic pedal. He made some amazing stuff. I was really bummed when he decided that he wasn't going to make pedals anymore. He did a really, really great job. Now this is kind of rare, but very cool. This Barracuda flanger, I think it was made by Toadworks. And this was, Eric Johnson actually used one of these for a while. It's a signature pedal for Howard Leese of Heart, hence the Barracuda name. This was actually, I don't know if this is a good price or not, but these are really great sounding flangers, fully analog. I haven't seen one in years. Those are really, really cool pedals. I really like those a lot. So boutique, I'm not seeing a lot. Let's expand out a little bit. Let's search for some specific stuff. Let's just search for that. We saw a TS10 there that was really expensive. Let's see if we can just find something specific. TS10. See what we can find. All right, and then that did yield some other stuff. We see one that's a $450 one as opposed to the $750. See if this is Japanese made. I can't tell. I can't tell from this picture if it's made in Japan or not. It doesn't say. But still, they're the same pedal. Here's another one, $250. Guy even shows his face a little bit. That's a great deal for a TS10. So you got a couple of great deals here. Let's see if we have one of my favorite reverb pedals. I am in love with the RV7. RV7. Didn't like that one. Let's try it with a hyphen. Sometimes you just have to try different. There it is. You have to try different versions of the same thing. $85. Now I know that these have been going for way more than $85. These as of late have been fetching crazy money, like 200 or more. In fact, I think my friend Danny Rabin paid somewhere around, I think 200 for his. They got the Lexicon chip, unbeatable in terms of tone. Caveman Vintage, which is a dealer there, reputable dude. Definitely get that. The other thing I've been jonesing for lately has been, we did this video about EQ, and I've been trying to get all these different EQs that were used by some of the guitar heroes like Eddie Van Halen. And so I've been searching for the MXR 6-band. I have a Boss, I think it's a 12-band. I've also been searching for the parametric EQ. Look at, there it is, that Tom Bukovac uses, $210, which is a great deal for this era of parametric EQ, made in Japan. Ibanez, that one's killer, $210, great deal there. Empress Para EQ, also, these have gone up crazy in price. I think that there is one right now that's like $450 on Reverb. Love that too. That parametric EQ is great. And what do you know? Here it is, Eddie Van Halen MXR blue 6-band graphic. These are fantastic. They sound great. Very Van Halen-esque. $80. This is from the 70s, maybe the early 80s. This is an incredible deal. This is I almost want to buy this right now. In fact, I'm gonna text this guy. Another one that I've been looking for has been the UE300, which I actually gave one to my brother. Just kind of changing up my area here. Bam. Now, the UE300 is basically a vintage TS9, a vintage compressor limiter, and a vintage Ibanez stereo chorus all in the same box. Wired for stereo. I think it has an insert effects loop in it that you can bring in other effects, has a master bypass. It was sort of like a switcher before there was a switcher, and it included all these great classic effects in it. And they had different versions. Some of them had delays, and some of them had other modulation stuff you could get. I think there's like 3 different versions. This thing is incredible, and the guy that introduced this to me was Mike Eldred, the former director of the Fender Custom Shop. He was in love with these. They're fantastic. They can definitely, this guy says any reasonable offer, so $375 or any reasonable offer. Maybe you offer him $300, $350. You can't even get a vintage TS9 for $350. So that's a pretty crazy deal. The other thing I've been looking for, just because Yannick Gwizdala was talking about it the other day, is I wanted to get an OC2, the original Boss OC2. So let's see. Let's just type in Boss and vintage. See what we get. We can move around our already right there. Bam. Boss OC2, original OC2, so Japanese made, $175. I'd say anything under $200 for an original OC2 is a pretty great deal. He also has a Tiwa here, which Tomo Fujita, again, who I talked about earlier, is a big fan of. It's a great auto wah that Boss made. And they also have a DC3, a dimensional chorus, the pink one, which is also a really great one, and that's $220. That's probably about standard or so, but those are a little less rare than the DC2, the purple one. So really great deals there for some pedals. I'm really impressed. I'm stoked. I hope I get this this EQ here. That's like the deal of the day. $80 for that thing. It's insane. Now let's talk about guitars. Now, this is arguably one of the harder and more expensive things to find great deals on. Information about how much guitars cost is pretty much readily available. However, this ES335 I got is probably one of my best deals of all time. Now, I was looking for a custom shop ES335, and I actually found an original 1968 ES335 with what I'm holding right here, and I got this for $2,800. Now, presumably, if I went to go get this now, this was a few years ago, I would still be paying a bit more than that. But I've still found tremendous deals, especially on late 60s ES335s, as a way to get a vintage Gibson guitar that still has some of the great parts that we really know and love. These are great because they still have a lot of the things that we love about late 50s and early 60s Gibson guitars. They do have some compromises, of course, in the width of the neck, especially at the nut. But this one is actually a pretty magical guitar. Same year as the Larry Carlton ES335. Plays great, sounds great, and nothing is a substitute for old wood. This was one heck of a deal. And I think if we take a look carefully, we're going to be able to find some cool vintage guitars and most certainly some great deals on custom shops, whether that's Fender, whether that's Gibson. Let's go take a look and see what kind of deals are out there on guitars. All right, so for guitars, I usually start off with some keywords like custom shop. And the main reason why I choose custom shop is that every company pretty much has a version of a custom shop. They have Gibson has their own custom shop, Fender has their own custom shop. So we're tending to see pretty good quality guitars from those two places. And generally for Fenders, I'm looking kind of in the high 2,000 to low 3,000 range for custom shop guitars. And then for Gibson, it's probably maybe $500 to $800 more than that for like a Les Paul, or probably a little less for an SG, maybe a little more for a 335. So like this, for example, this is a little high. This custom shop Strat in Montgomery County, it's $3,350, but it does have a lot of things going for it. It's a mid 60s, which is a little bit more unusual. You don't see those all the time. 6105 frets, so medium jumbo frets, 9.5 inch radius, which I really dig. 7.5 pounds, which to me is a big thing. I like to get the Strats kind of in the low to mid 7-pound range, so this is definitely there. It has replacement pickups in it from Klein, but I think this looks really good. I love Olympic White. It maybe isn't a great deal, but it looks way cool. Now this is a better deal. This is a 69 2010 NOS, 2,700 or best offer. Very Hendrix-esque, big headstock. I like that one for sure. That looks good. Let's see what else. Here's a good one. This is a mid 50s, 56. Looks to definitely be a heavier relic. Definitely has a lot more of a patina on it. This looks very much kind of like the Clapton Blackie that was sold by Christie's. $3,000, very nice looking. This is in Soho. I'm guessing that's New York. But man, yeah, it's New York. It looks great. I really like this. That looks great. All right, now here's a pretty good, here's an R6, so a 56 gold top for $3,200. That's not bad for a Gibson. Looks great. It's just 2 pictures of it, but it's natural back P90s. If you're looking for a P90 Les Paul, $3,200, pretty fair deal for those, I'd say. R8 for $3,200. Now this isn't bad. Made in 2005 in Allentown. I'm guessing that's Allentown, Pennsylvania. All right, so this looks great. This is kind of a real classic looking Les Paul Cherry Sunburst. Let's see if there's anything about the weight. Nothing about the weight in here, but that's still a great deal. Let's see if we got anything else here. Let's move over to Nashville, Atlanta area. Let's see what we find here. 3,100, not bad. This is a Jeff Beck. It's a little high, but you know, Jeff Becks are cool. Doesn't really tell us much about the weight. Let's try a different area. Let's try going a little further north to the Chicago, Midwest area. 56 Relic Custom Shop. This is promising. $2,700. That's looking good. We don't know much about the guitar. It's made in 2003. I think even so, $2,700 for any custom shop is a good deal. This gold top too, not a bad deal. Little high, I'd say. New Berlin, $3,700. Maybe a little bit high for this, for a gold top, since it doesn't have any sort of figurine or anything like that. I don't know if I think it might be slightly high, but maybe that guy could be talked down a little bit. Here's a 61 for $3,099. I mean, I think you could get this for $3,000. This is a Journeyman Strat Fiesta Red. Looks fantastic. This has got a AAA rosewood neck. It's a limited edition. That one looks really slick. I dig that. $3,000. So kind of on the higher end of the price point, but I think still a good deal. All right, let's move back out west. Let's move our map out west. Let's kind of stay in the LA to San Francisco region. Here's a great deal. $2,500 Journeyman Relic in pink. Compound radius 7.25 to 9.5. This looks pretty slick. Dig this for sure. Nice relicing job. Looks like they're medium jumbo frets. Comes with all the case candy, all that stuff. That's a killer deal. That might be the deal of the day right now for Fender guitars. Let's see what else we got. This is a pretty good deal here. Here's a Nocaster, super heavy relic. It looks even more relic than the one I got here on the wall. This is $3,000. I think I paid $1,000 more for mine, and this one looks definitely more relic. This is a limited edition NAMM, $3,000, 9.5-inch radius, 6105 frets. It's a bigger neck than mine because mine is a 52, but lightweight ash body. This looks great. Here's another good deal, 69 Fender Custom Shop for $3,000. Maybe a little high. It looks like it's not a relic, maybe an NOS here, but those are still way cool. Here's another custom shop. This is a Relic Telly from the 60s, 63. Weighs in at 7 pounds exactly. Yeah, if you wanted an early 60s Telly, this one looks great. It's a pretty good deal, I'd say. You know, anything kind of getting $3,000 or under is, I think, a pretty good deal. That one looks good. Here's a Les Paul, a gold top. This one looks pretty slick, $3,500. This is probably more in line with what I was thinking. It's not a true historic. This is a historic 2016. This one looks good. Local here in the Bay Area. I think this looks good. I like this. $3,500. This is a pretty fair price for a gold top, I think. Kind of a little bit more on the lower end of things. I think this is a good looking guitar. I like that one. I like that one for $35. So that was my technique and strategy for finding great deals. Now I know that this is still a lot of money to spend on gear, and I'm lucky that this is my job, this is my career, and so investing in these instruments is part of my business. But even if you're somebody at home that's a hobbyist and you're interested in investing in a high quality guitar, amplifier, or pedal, I definitely think that going used is a great way to get amazing bang for your buck. You don't take any hit on the resale, and most of these, they're already appreciating in value most of these amps and guitars and pedals are only going up. So if you purchase and you get in at the ground floor, you're invariably going to make money on these if you ever decide to sell them. I highly recommend that you go after vintage Fender amplifiers, vintage Marshall amplifiers, especially among the classics, whether that's the mid-60s to late 60s, or if it's a Marshall amp, getting something from the Plexi generation, or really up until the early 70s. Once they stopped doing hand-wired is kind of when most people start to diverge away from them. However, I have a JMP50 that sounds absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend that amplifier, even though it's not hand-wired like the earlier versions or the Plexi versions. Equally with guitars, there's a lot of great deals to be had, especially on custom shops. A lot of people buy these new and they take a hit just like they would if you were buying a brand new car and you went to resell it to the dealership the next day. It's automatically worth just a little bit less just as a result of taking it off the lot. There's a lot of great deals to be had here for people that are looking to unload guitars that maybe didn't work for them, or they're past the return policy of wherever the place is that they bought them. A lot of these deals can be found on Craigslist, and even if you're not local to them, a lot of people are willing to ship, especially if you're willing to provide the shipping label and things like that to help ease some of the pain of them having to pack it up and get it over to you wherever you're located. Equally with the pedals, finding vintage pedals is really easy on Craigslist because they're small, they're portable, and generally not as big of an investment as an amplifier or a guitar. You can get these really pretty cheaply for a few $100s, as you saw, for some really iconic pieces like the vintage tube screamers that we were looking at. So lots of different ways for you to start experimenting with vintage gear, being able to get good deals on them. And as long as you're doing your homework and you know what you're getting into, you know the flaws in advance, I've really never had a problem dealing on Craigslist. I found people to be very honest and open. And so long as you're reciprocating that with them, I found that everything goes really smoothly, and I've had nothing but great experiences. And I hope that you do too. I hope that some of these resources are useful for you. If you're interested in any of these links, we're gonna link some of the ones that we found today, some of the best deals, and post those also in the description so you can check those out if you're interested in those, or those are maybe in an area near you, or you can reach out to those people even if they're not and see if maybe they'll ship those amps, guitars, or pedals directly to you. If you like what you saw, definitely make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, or if you found any killer deals on Craigslist, go ahead and tell us about those deals that you found wherever they may be, whether that be other places that maybe aren't Craigslist. I want to hear about the great deals. It's always fun to read about. And if you want to support us further, you can always join us over on our podcast, a free way to support, or you can subscribe to the channel, of course, that helps to support. Or if you want to support us even further, you can join up with us on Patreon. We have an almost free membership that's $1 a month or $12 a year, less than it would cost to go and see a matinee at most movie theaters these days. And we also have other levels of membership that also include consults that you can hire me for, where we can do one-on-one coaching about your rig or things that you're having trouble with. Also, you can head over to therigdr.com, where we sell all of our pedal board tools and supplies, everything that we use to make our rigs. Also, you can head over to vertexeffects.com, where we have all of our new pedals, including the brand new Steel String Supreme SRV, our latest pedal, which is based on the tones of my favorite guitar player, none other than Stevie Ray Vaughan, but it's actually the slight return version. No connection with Stevie Ray Vaughan, but definitely going after some of those sort of tones. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. Until next time, I'm Mason Marangella from Vertex Effects, aka The Rig Doctor. Hope you dug this little Craigslist search that we did today. See you later.